Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome to another episode of Food Freedom and Fertility. We are your hosts, Sophia Pavia and Caitlin Johnson. I, Sophia, being a registered dietitian specializing in women's health and fertility, with a special emphasis on making enough progesterone so that you can rock that 2-week wait, get pregnant, stay pregnant, and bring home your healthy baby. And Caitlin, also a functional health women's fertility expert dietitian with a special emphasis in polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. And we are also best friends. If this is your first podcast, welcome. You get to now hear two friends talking to each other. And we are joined by a third very new friend, Ashley Koff, who has written a really cool book called Your Best Shot, talking about GLP-1s, the way that your body works, and really how this applies to somebody who is trying to be in optimal health shape to get pregnant. And do you know what? She's also a dietitian. We met her. Well, Caitlin met her at a dietitian convention. I was there, but I was off schmoozing someone else, I'm sure. So welcome, Ashley.
She was hanging out at the pendulum table. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, totally. Right after somebody had said, if you recommend supplements, or whatever. And then I'm at a supplement table. So it was an interesting time to meet you. Yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of variation in the way that dietitians practice.
Yes.
Some people are like food, only the food. Some people believe in supplements. Some people really, I don't know. There's just so much within this practice. It's why it's like when you hear, oh, well, my cousin's a dietitian and she works in kidney cancer. It's like, okay, that is so needed, but also not the person to talk to about your fertility or your weight loss, because she's calculating tube feeds all day. That's just really not going to help the average Jane who's just trying to eat enough fiber. That's really...
Or the food service director who's...
Totally.
Yeah, there's such a span. Well, Ashley, I'd have to say this is one of those moments, full circle moments, where I've looked up to you for a really long time. I feel like I was first introduced to your work by Ayla, who is the creator of the Fullwell brand. And she partnered with you for, I think, a better nutrition program, forms related to integrative assessment of infertility. And so I listened to a talk that you guys did together. I don't know, listener, you may not realize, but Ashley Koff is a kind of workhorse in the marketing space. You probably have products in your kitchen right now that say Koff approved because she's worked with a lot of really big industry. You've just done a lot. Yes.
I want to know if I've got something in my kitchen that's Koff approved.
Yeah, it's literally
AKA stamp. That's right.
Yeah. But she's also a faculty member at the Integrative and Functional Nutrition Academy, where she teaches an integrative and functional nutrition approach to obesity and weight management. A practitioner with over 25 years experience, and I would say kind of a trailblazer in our space in different ways. And so getting to meet you and hug you and take a picture with you at Fancy was really fun for me. It's even more fun to be able to get an hour of your time that we can share with the audience. So I'd love to say you should just tune in and put other things aside, because I think, Ashley, you're going to drop a lot of truth, and I want you guys to really engage and listen to this. But her book, Your Best Shot, is a personalized system for optimal weight health, a GLP-1 shot or not. So she's teaching from the perspective of how do we optimize the hormones that these shots optimize for us, but from a more zoomed out landscape of looking at the whole person. So Ashley, we're so glad to have you here. Is there anything else you want our listeners to understand about your background or your experience that might relate to hormone health and fertility that they might relate to in some way?
Well, first of all, thank you. Felt I was so excited when I got to meet you, and then you're like, and I know Ayla, and I ended up having dinner with Ayla that night, and I was like, this is so crazy. Like, I just love how all the worlds collide.
She's sponsoring this episode,
I
right?
did not know that, but like, yay, because I take full well. I'm 52 and no longer have a uterus, and I still use it for optimizing my fertility. And one of the things that Ayla and I really bonded on was how fertility is a lens for a woman's health. It's not this just about, and I understand, I don't want to diminish in any capacity the desire for reproduction, but it's this big opportunity for us to understand the body, and I love full well, so that's great on that piece. I think that for what I want to share is that you shared a little bit about your audience. I was checking out your podcast, and I think that we want to be able to step into a space of vulnerability and recognizing where we as women have just not had the support that we need. I'm so grateful for you all for providing that support. For me, this goes back to my childhood and being born and having been really like chubby cute with this like belly, and my belly just kept growing. And by about 10 or 11, society kind of changed from, I would tell people I was a cross between Shirley Temple and Spanky from the Little Rascals, and like both appearance and attitude, and so, and like,
so if you're watching this, she does have beautiful curls. And so you can see where she would get that.
But I wanted hair like you, Sophia, for like both of you. I wanted to be tall, blonde, and thin, because that's right. Exactly.
Genetic lottery with hers.
That's right. Totally. Totally. And, society starts to, and I don't blame any of them, but I'm here for us to disrupt this, because we don't want this for ourselves, but we definitely don't want it for future generations, where, I then became teased and seen as a fat kid. And it was, and the crazy part was, throughout all of that time period, doctors told me, and I'm going to come down hard on doctors. Doctors told me that I was healthy. Yeah, they told me that I was healthy and that I had a weight problem. And so this world that we've existed in has been weight or health. And what we know today is that it's weight health. We know that your body's composition, your weight, your bone, your muscle, your fat, your water, like all of that, and what regulates that is a key performance indicator. It's a signal to decode, so you are not a bad person, or there's and there legitimately in the body is no muscle called willpower, even though we're asked to flex it. So you're not somebody who is a failure or impaired in any capacity if you don't have your weight health right now, if your weight composition isn't in a better place. It's something for us to understand why and to ask that question. And if my life hadn't changed, if I hadn't, tried every diet under the sun, gone to every doctor that I could, and then met a random healer hanging upside down at yoga. I mean, I was a macrobiotic vegan who did yoga in my 20s and didn't drink alcohol. Like, I was like the least fun person in Manhattan. Now I would be considered trendy, but like, it was not the case, right? And she pricked my finger, probably a Fisher Price microscope, and looked at my blood and told me that I had a worm. And the way to kill the worm was a 7-day goat's milk cleanse. And I went and I did it. And I was like all of us, like, we have tried everything. If you told me to put garlic under my armpits, or whatever, it's like you try everything. And when that failed, that was my last ounce of hope. Like, it was no longer just about like, hey, that diet didn't work for me. It was where I've met so many of your listeners, this space where we're trying things and it's not working out for us. And the only thing we're taught as society is to blame ourselves for that part. Like, you must not be compliant, or it must be you, or, that piece. So randomly, I ended up in a bar, because that's what you do when life doesn't work out. You start drinking again. And I met a gastroenterologist, and he said to me, after I agreed to go see him because my insurance would pay for it because I was now broke. And he said to me, it's not what you're eating or what you're not eating. It's that your body, in particular, your digestion, doesn't have what it needs to run better. And I want to just restate that. It's not. Like, this was the first time in my life. He actually never talked to me about my weight. It's not what you are eating or not eating. And I would transpose that to today, or what you're doing and what you're not doing. If your body doesn't have what it needs to run better, it can't run better. Fast forward to where we are today, we have these GLP-1 agonists, these medications. But what I learned in 2005, not in school as a dietitian, but in 2005 with bariatric patients, is that our gut is where we're producing and deploying weight health hormones. There are hormones that regulate appetite, cravings, blood sugar, inflammation, as a result, cognitive function, bone health, muscle health, what type of fat and where it's deposited, all of these things. And yet, in the world of medicine, in the world of nutrition, we haven't been helping the body run better. We haven't been working on those. So that brings us where we are today. And I just want to acknowledge, for anyone who feels like they are any aspect failing in this space, medicine has failed you because we haven't been actually talking about and teaching you how to operate your operating system better. So that's what we're here to do. So that's how I'd introduce it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a fantastic introduction. I think it resonates so much with everyone. They've tried everything for everything. And it's just, maybe I didn't do it for long enough, or maybe I, didn't do it, I wasn't compliant enough because there was some gluten in that dressing that I had that one time. And so that must have been why. And just searching for meaning, because you're in a place where no one has been able to give you any answers. And so you're trying to find them for yourself. So really, such a great place to be coming from. We're really pumped to have you on here. So, tell us more about these hormones that our guts are making and what they're supposed to be doing for us. And personally, I feel like you're telling a bit of my story here. I've always been a big belly gal, especially today. That's a joke, everybody, because I'm like 5 months pregnant. Yes. But that's always been for me too. They would call me like the pot belly when I was little, and then when I became a teen, it was just a war against my belly for always. And whether it was digestive issues I was battling, or the way that it looked, was like a constant concern to me. This is just, I really resonate with what you're saying here.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, right? Because when our sex hormones get thrown off, or when our sex hormones not even get thrown off, when they naturally shift throughout our cycle, and I call them sex hormones. So, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, I know they're bigger than that. They're neuro, they're ecosystem hormones. But when we look at that, they throw digestion off course. And so and then when digestion is thrown off course, that's where our weight health hormones are. So GLP-1, it sounds like alphabet soup. GLP-1, GIP, PYY, CCK, GLP-2, amylin, basically every ingredient, each one of these hormones, we're now learning about because pharma has learned about them, because pharma has figured out, the pharmaceutical world has figured out ways to create versions of these hormones. And so what I want us to understand is that the medications that you're hearing about, semaglutide or tirzepatide, semaglutide is GLP-1, tirzepatide is GLP-1 GIP, they are biosimilar versions of our own hormones. So why is that important? Because when we are low on thyroid hormone, we can take thyroid hormone. That's a bioidentical. If we need insulin, that's a bioidentical. If we need estrogen, or progesterone, that's a bioidentical in most instances. Yeah. What that means is they're the same form and they get received into the body in the exact same way. Biosimilar is a little bit different. It's identical in that when it goes to the receptor site goes, oh my gosh, I recognize this. And now I know, I got what I need. I got the goods, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's dissimilar. And this is the important thing for us to understand. It's dissimilar in that our own hormones are designed to stay on for about 2 to 5 minutes. They're like motion detectors. So the way the human body was designed was when the brain gets signals either from what it sees, from what it's tasting, from what it smells, from what you're thinking about. It sends those signals down to the gut and it turns on these hormones. And these hormones last for 2 to 5 minutes. And they have 2 to 5 minutes to get where they're supposed to go, which is like the brain or the pancreas, or we've learned now the thyroid, or our arterial wall, all these different places for receptors to go tell other hormones to go to work. And that's what they're doing. And they tell like insulin and glucagon to go to work, or leptin and ghrelin are appetite and hunger hormones. So the difference is the medications stay on for at first 24 hours. That was the first version. And now they stay on for 24 hours for about 7 days. So they like with diminishing amounts, it's most intensity when you take the shot, and then it diminishes. So what we need to understand there is the amazing benefit is when something stays on for that long, it is going to get to the receptor sites. It doesn't need to, we don't have to rely on the brain to process messages. We don't have to rely on digestion to be working well enough. We don't need the vagus nerve to be able to transport it, our bloodstream to be clear. It literally, we inject it and it goes to these receptor sites. And so what pharma is doing is showing us how the body works, because when we have this medication and we start to see receptor sites being satisfied on the regular, like all the time, we start to see all of these benefits that are happening. I want to create a scenario for you. Back in pre-industrialization, our receptor sites were getting satisfied. 2 to 5 minutes was fine, because there wasn't, for a motion detector, there wasn't a stampede running in front of it and it was trying to figure out what to do, right? There wasn't a decision, am I in Starbucks, am I going to have coffee or matcha or mocha or this? It was like, you wake up in the morning, you turn on the pot, maybe you're lucky enough to have coffee. Okay, well, if I had coffee and I didn't eat in the pre-industrialized time, like I'm probably not going to have exposure to food again until lunch, or I might not have exposure to food until dinner. Like, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to eat something right in that moment. So all of these decisions, but modern day, we need a force field. We don't need a motion detector. We need to be able to, all the marketing that I created as an advertising executive selling sugared cereals and telling you that they were great for you for your morning because they provide the most energy of anything, all of that stuff, it's worked. And now our brains are like saturated with information about what we should be doing, right? We're info beasts in that way. So when we come back to this and we understand, at minimum, GLP-1, GIP, PYY, CCK, they are weight health hormones. They regulate hydration. They regulate the pace at which our digestion empties. They regulate our hunger and our appetite. They regulate our blood sugar. They regulate aspects of inflammation. So when we understand that, we now understand that they are part of an ecosystem, not a system, not digestion versus endocrine or not, any of these other stuff. If those aren't working well, you cannot have weight health. Hard stop. So for everyone, I love it. We've got PCOS over here. We've got fertility, we've got all of that. All of these issues that we as women are facing are rooted in the fact that our body is sharing signals that it's working suboptimally. And so this is part of when we understand how to optimize weight health hormones, we can go in and we can start to address these issues, with the end result being when the body's operating optimally, it's fertility. That's fertility. It's going to be like, okay, like this is what, if I am able to do this, and also if my partner's body is able to do this, we should be able to, then be able to seal the deal word, like from a fertility standpoint.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people are going to relate to understanding bioidentical versus like biosimilar, but they may have only heard in that list GLP and maybe GIP. Can you talk about what some of these other alphabet soup hormones are? Because I feel like this is the next round of questions, at least I see being brought up in social media, is like, there are other peptides than the ones you're hearing about in the news media.
Yeah. So first of all, yes. Yeah, there are. Let's just start with a peptide. I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I don't want to lose the audience, but I actually think you're a very smart audience. You're people who are trying and investigating. So I like to come up with analogies, so hopefully they land. But when we think about hormones, they're either steroid or they're peptide. And so steroid means they're made from fat. And so the type of fat that you're consuming, the body's ability to make hormones from fat, like we need fat, that's why the fat-free era didn't work out so well for us from a hormonal standpoint. And so there's that.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, right. There's that classic. Sophia and I are like, yeah, like, and another thing that was bad for my belly, right? And then
I'm thinking of, we were all, pretty much everyone who's listening to this was coming of age in like the early 2000s, when everything was very, well, the 90s
Snackwell's
was more
heavy.
like fat free. Yeah.
That's
But then,
90s. Yeah.
and then, but we were just so raised on that mentality, and in
Hmm.
houses where our parents, they thought they were doing right by us
Totally.
by having the fat-free ranch, the fat-free
Fat-free
cheese, the
milk.
fat-free, yeah, skim milk, all the things. And now here we're all struggling to conceive.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
let's
it's
look at the
like
biggest one. Where did we
formative
take
years.
the fat out that was so important for us? Eggs. Like, let's get rid of
Yeah,
the egg
get rid of the
yolk,
yolk.
right? And
Oh,
then we got rid of choline, and we got rid of, antioxidants that are, in the orange that are, I mean, we have so messed all of you up. I'm so sorry. Like, we're here to right the wrongs. But yeah, I think it's so important for us to look at that. And then we have peptide hormones. And a peptide is a chain of amino acids. So what it turns out is that those chains, from a genetic standpoint, some of us are less successful at stapling amino acids together in the body. And so that
mm-hmm.
might mean why we don't make the hormones as successfully. But for a lot of us, we also have shifted what proteins we're taking in, or maybe we were taking in insufficient amounts. And so we weren't necessarily making the peptide hormones as successfully, on that part. And so enter this world of peptides, and peptides are getting, for everything, like peptides for your gut, peptides for pain, peptides for hair growth. And there's a bit of peptide challenge in the sense of there are some that have very good evidence, and both from a practitioner usage experience and also from a research standpoint. And then there are certainly things that are out there that are being sold that I think are really junky, peptides being added to like all your different makeup and skincare, and stuff where it's like, I don't
Just a
know, on this
gimmick.
part.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there was a big push recently. Maybe not that recently, maybe I'm just old, but I feel like within the last few years, there was a big scare that peptides were going to become unavailable, that it
And
was
they
going to become
were
illegal to
26
have.
were removed. Yeah, they were made unavailable from compounding pharmacies. 26 of
Mhm.
them were removed. They only just now are bringing back 17. So you nailed it. Like that did happen.
Sophia and I are so proud to be sponsored by TempDrop. TempDrop is a fertility sensor that you wear on your arm while you sleep, and it has a companion app on your smartphone that you can sync those temperatures with each day. That way, you can track your cycle and know your own body while you're tracking your fertility trying to conceive. This is an incredible tool. It's one of the first things I like to recommend to new clients. And if you're listening to this podcast and trying to conceive, consider yourself one and head over to tempdrop.com. One of the reasons why I love this brand and this company so much is how value driven they are. It was born out of a husband and wife trying to conceive and trying to figure out basal body temping and making it easier, and in alignment with that value of making this information more accessible, they have just decided to lower their price. And in a landscape where everything is getting more expensive, I love that this company is making a bold move to make this product and this technology more accessible to women. So the new base price of this model is $189. This is incredible. You can even use our code FFF10 to get 10% off this new lower price. So head to our show notes or to tempdrop.com, grab yourself your fertility monitor, choose the size that you need, throw that code into the checkout area, and get tracking your basal body temperature today. We are taking a break from the episode, and I want to chat with you a little bit about Fertility Cloud. If you've been told you need help ovulating, or you have PCOS and you're trying to figure out your next fertility step, I want to tell you about Fertility Cloud. They make fertility care simple, transparent, and affordable, especially when it comes to ovulation stimulation and ovulation induction treatments. Instead of waiting for months to see a fertility specialist or getting hit with surprise bills, Fertility Cloud lists every price clearly right on their website. You'll see exactly what you're getting into and exactly what it costs. No hidden clinic fees, no surprise invoices later. For my PCOS clients, this is huge. Their ovulation stimulation program can help jumpstart ovulation safely at home with physician guidance and medications delivered directly to you. You can do it all virtually, no driving to clinics or sitting in waiting rooms, and you can often even get appointments same day. If you're wondering, how do we do ultrasounds or what about lab draws? Don't worry, their concierge service helps determine where you can do that locally to you and coordinates with you on your behalf. It's just amazing. And here's the best part. If you're ready to take that next step, you can click the link in our show notes and get $50 off your first appointment. That means you get right in front of a fertility specialist for $115. That first visit gets you matched with a fertility doctor who actually understands your needs, and you'll walk away with a clear plan for your next cycle. So head to the link in our show notes, book your appointment, save $50 on your first Fertility Cloud visit, because fertility care should be transparent, affordable, and built for you.
It felt like the government was like, oh, no, people are getting well without our medications. We can't have this. We need to block all these things because this is cutting into our bottom line, which, me as like, I guess, thinking of the clinic I used to work at that prescribed a lot of peptides and saw so much benefit to people through them. That's what it looks like to me. But this is also an extremely reputable place that has like very beautiful supply chain and everything like that, and not just some crazy gym bro trying to hop himself up on BPC 157 and whatever, the one that makes your skin tan, and like there's all kinds of things that I think people were probably getting wacky with them. It maybe did need some regulation, but
and I do think like government or not, I think the government like tried to like catch up on that part, but I definitely think pharma, like I think big industry was like whoa, like until we like if big industry could welcome Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk and others, and I'm grateful for this. I want to be clear, but the cynicism is warranted. If they can patent and create a peptide chain, they're super happy to sell it. But what they're also going to do is come in and now kick out the compounding pharmacies that are doing it. As you said, there's a difference. There's compounding pharmacies B and A. They have different regulations. The quality of their ingredient is different. And so, we've seen this with statins and red yeast rice and like other things. So I actually think government, like, it wasn't actually that government necessarily wanted to do it. It was that government got a very compelling argument from their biggest lobbyist that said, and the rationale is always the safety issue. It's the same people who came after almond milk say, and it was the dairy industry saying that, people are getting confused. Really? Like, you think I'm confused if something is almond milk, that I'm confused if it came from a cow? Like,
okay,
I'm
Ashley,
good.
I have to say,
Yeah.
I had a situation in my own very home where I sent my husband to the grocery store to buy butter
Yes.
and barbecue sauce.
Okay.
We were like in the middle of a meal, and I was like, barbecue sauce is like, the jar is like sort of cloudy. You can't, because it's like sauce. I didn't realize we didn't have enough. And then I went in the freezer where we usually have butter. Butter's been all used up. And it was like middle of cooking. So I was like, you got to run and grab this. It's mission critical for the meal. He comes back with plant butter coconut sticks.
Oh, no.
Where I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, they should not be putting that next to the butter. It should not. That is false. This is the problem with the grocery store on here. Because he just said plant butter, coconut sticks.
Yes.
And his iron giant brain went, butter, go.
Okay, so I stand corrected. However, I don't know. Yes.
He came home with sugar-free.
Sure. I was just going to say, I was like, oh, dear God, tell me that this did not. Oh, no.
No,
okay.
I was like, okay, so when we're at the grocery store, we have to do this thing. It's called reading what's on the label.
Yes.
And if you can't do that, you can't go to the grocery store. Yeah. And so
yes,
I'm sorry for those of us that have, challenges in that area.
Yes.
But this happened in my own home. So
Yes. Okay.
I have to
So I will
say,
stand corrected. I
some
think the
people
issue is that
will do
the
that.
like, I don't think the government needs to regulate what it is like. I don't think we need to not let there be plant-based butter because, like, I mean, I love me some
Sure.
Nyokos, right?
And what's
But
really the
yes,
risk of somebody
that's
buying
right.
coconut
That's
butter?
right.
Like,
Yes.
your wife is pissed?
And I think the bringing it over to the peptide piece is we do need to be aware, just like at the grocery store, we need to be aware. And if you don't know where your peptides come from, you have the potential to have a really big problem, because if the body receives it and thinks that it is going to work effectively, I say to people, when I have the quality discussion about, I want you to choose things that the body recognizes and can use. Your body could be like, I need something round. Well, if you try to fry an egg on a paper plate over a gas stove, it's round, or you have a cast iron round pan, I think we know the outcome. One of them is going to work and
Yeah.
one of them is going to cause a fire. So one of the things that we have to recognize with peptide hormones, and I think this is totally apropos of the GLP-1 conversation, is that when we look at peptides, we need to make sure that the body is not just going to receive it as something that it can use, but actually it is going to use it. And if it is going to cause any exacerbation of underlying issues, we need to know that. And that's what we're seeing with the agonists. Going back to, Caitlin, to your question of understanding these other ones, I think this is really important because we have all of these peptides, right? So number one, that tells us meeting our protein needs is important. Number two, we don't get credit. The body does not give us credit, i.e., successfully produce peptide hormones and have them work optimally, or make hair, or build muscle, or create or enable fertility if we just eat something. We have a process called digestion.
Mm-hmm.
And the body has to be able to break it down and absorb it and have it go where it's supposed to go and to eliminate waste product. And if anywhere in there, motility, absorption, breakdown, hydration, elimination, if any of those are suboptimally functioning, your protein intake is not going to result in what you wanted it to, result in. So when we look at all these peptides, we number one have to say, Caitlin, I think there's a lot of them, right? And what we're going to be hearing about is pharma is now so excited that they can recreate peptides and they can own them with patents. And now they do the holy grail, they help with weight loss. So let's just start making all of these peptide hormones that are biosimilar. Well, when you look at things like, and nobody has been able to do to date, I think I shouldn't say nobody has. I am not aware that in the treatment space that we have PYY and CCK as examples. PYY is really interesting. It's a protein, tyrosine. So it's a particular, it's just a PYY, right? But it's in the colon. And one of the interesting things about it, and should teach us something about weight health, is it actually helps regulate hydration. So it evaluates your
Mm.
poop as your poop goes through the colon, and in that moment, the two things hit. And as your poop is passing through, the PYY goes, hey, body, do you have enough water and electrolytes? Because if not, I got something coming through that I could grab it from. If you are dehydrated, it will grab from your stool. And that's how we end up with those dry pellets that are coming out, and we're not fully
Making me want to drink
eliminating,
water.
because the body is trying to make up for it. So when we now understand that hydration is a part of weight health, and we also want to think about, if I'm on a GLP-1 or a GLP-1 GIP agonist, if it is circumventing when you take the injection, it just goes right to the receptor sites. So it means it's circumventing this system of peptides in our own colon and in our own digestive tract. So it's suppressing the function, because your body doesn't have to produce GLP-1 and GIP in order to, and it doesn't need all that activity to happen if the receptor sites are satisfied for 7 days. So what happens in that situation is PYY is altered. Your own GLP-1 and GIP are suppressed, but PYY's abilities are altered. CCK, which is more in the stomach and has to do with the acid, the gastric acid that helps us to break down protein to make it available. And so, we have people who are where CCK and PYY are now being suppressed, or those hormones themselves are suboptimally functioning. And maybe you're then adding a proton pump inhibitor. Maybe you've been told through multiple attempts at pregnancy or for whatever issues that you're dealing with, that you have high stomach acid and you should take a proton pump inhibitor. Well, if you're suppressing stomach acid, your CCK is not working optimally. It is one of your weight health hormones. And so what is happening? Usually belly weight, oftentimes liver challenge. And we see this in the whole ecosystem. So this isn't meant to scare anyone. It's meant to say, when we think of the body, the first big aha for me is we need to move from a weight versus health society. We need to be focusing on weight health for every single one of our health goals. The second part is, if digestion and hydration are suboptimal, you cannot have healthy weight hormones. So we have to start there and work on that. Part of how we work on that is actually to optimize our nutrition and our lifestyle choices. And I'm sure this is stuff you guys talk about a ton in terms of helping people to make those choices. But we only can do that once we know digestion and hydration is working, so that the nutrients, can actually get where they're supposed to go. And you'll notice in all of that, I didn't bring up like the medication, the supplement, the cold plunge, the infrared sauna, the, meditation, that any of this other stuff, because though, like when we look at our toppings, like when we look at like those other things, none of those can work effectively if the foundational stuff isn't optimal. So yeah, I think the era of peptides is amazing. And I actually love BPC 157, but I have had patients, there's a difference when you take it orally versus when you take an injection. And I've had people who have been on something that I think was like sold as BPC 157 and was probably BRT 104. Like it was just not what it said it was. You know what I mean? Like I made that second one up. And that's scary to me. That's really scary to me in that space. Yeah.
So you just mentioned toppings, and I've read part of your book, so I know what you're saying. Can you give some context of how you describe that and what the other components of pizza are?
Sure.
But the audience didn't think they were going to hear us talk about pizza today.
Yeah, totally. So the answer to weight health is eat pizza.
Right now.
That's right. That's right. I was like, what could be, I'm a marketing person. So I was like, what could stand out more effectively than to tell people that the solution to their weight health is to eat a pizza? So years and years ago, when I was a Hollywood dietitian, I got called in by a doctor. We didn't have texting and all this other stuff. So I got paged, and then I went and saw him, and he said, look, just going to tell you right off the bat, like you're a Hail Mary, but like this is not going to work. Like this guy, we have a donor. He's like approaching 500 pounds. He's been on every diet under the sun. We need him to be under 450 for him to be a candidate for bariatric surgery. But like legitimately, we don't think anything's going to work, but you got to go to his house. He's a big Hollywood, producer, big entertainment industry, et cetera. And there's something you all should know about me right off the bat. I am super competitive. So if somebody tells me it's not going to, and I'm very defensive about my patients, like I am here as your teammate. And so if somebody tells me something's not going to work, and especially if a doctor, like now I'm revealing dad issues because my dad's a doctor. If they tell me it's not going to, that I can't do it, I'm like, oh, you
watch me try.
Yeah, exactly. So I go to his house and we start to have a conversation, and he's like he's like a broken man at this point. He's so successful in everything. I mean, we just totally bonded over that. He's like, I never leave my house anymore. He's like, I don't want anyone to come over. Like I've had chefs for years. I've tried diets. He was like, at one point I tried really low calorie diets. I did worse on that. He's like, I did that. Like, he's like, so basically I've stopped eating during the day. And I drink diet soda because I want some caffeine and, I need a little bit of energy. And then I was told I had to have 1,200 calories. So there's like this amazing pizza place. And I get this like great, I know the place, like he was getting like the best pizza in LA. He's like, I get a cheese pizza delivered every night, like around like 6 o'clock, or I get a couple of them and I heat it up. And I eat a pizza, like, and that's like kind of where I am. He's like, and so my blood sugar, he's like, now I'm like worse from a diabetes standpoint. He's like, but I haven't gained any weight. He's like, so, it's kind of like, well, maybe, what's in this. And so I started off where I start with everyone, and we start talking about his digestion. He's like, oh, it's horrible. He's like, I'm gassy, I'm bloated, I never go to the bathroom. And
oh my God, yeah, you're in Diet Coke diet. Who could imagine?
I know. And also not moving, right? Like at this point, and also having tried every
sad inside.
Yes, exactly. And seeing himself as this failure and, this whole piece.
This poor man.
Yeah, totally. And so I ended up, like, my plan for him after we went through everything, as I said, I still like, let's just for right now, let's do what's easy right here. I can't change everything at once, but I can definitely help you. I want you within 2 hours of waking to have 3 slices of pizza. And then every 3 hours, I want you to have 3 slices of pizza. I want you to stop the diet soda. I want you to have water. You could have coffee if you want, or tea, but you can only have that in the morning. And then I also want you to pit stop for water. And this was so long ago. There were like all the supplements and everything else were not, but I put him on glutamine and I put him on some bifidobacteria, to help the gut. And we used some magnesium to help him poop. And I got a note the next day, like I guess the doctor had checked in. The guy was like excited. He's like, oh, and he called himself. He's like, I'm on the Mr. Pizza Pop plan. Like I'm, whatever. And the doctor tried to embarrass me in front of everyone. So publicly, like in the lunchroom, and was like, oh yeah, Ashley's idea of like a smart nutrition plan is to eat pizza and give up diet soda. Like, are you kidding me? Whatever. Anyway, famously, within 6 weeks, he had lost 51 pounds. He was basically almost off his diabetes medication. He was a candidate for the bariatric surgery. He had the surgery. I had 12 pizzas they sent me Domino's. I was like, at least get the location right. Like the Mozza was the name of the pizza. I was like, at least send me Mozza. But they sent me to my front door. I came out one day and like the doctors had all sent me the pizza. So I've always had this, like when I was telling, in my book, I open up with the story of Mr. Pizza Pop because he's such an important message for us to understand the pillars of better nutrition. One of them being that we have to pit stop regularly, that our body is designed more like a race car. So if you're backloading all your calories at the end of the day, and I'm seeing this with people who are on GLP-1 medications where they're not hungry all day long and then they're eating, it's bad for your digestion, it's bad for your sleep, and you're overwhelming your system. So you're more likely to create fat on that part. And then we need a balance of nutrients. So we had some protein, we had some carbs, et cetera. And then we also, the quality, we needed to, he was doing really well there. So I was like, okay, that part is great. And then the quantity, it does matter, how much you're having at one time. So I went through that whole part. And when it came time to write this book, I was like, at the end of the day, I need something that's universal. Everybody understands a pizza. It has a crust, it has sauce, it has cheese, and it could have toppings. And I don't care if your crust is spinach, cauliflower, gluten, non-gluten, like whatever on that part. It's actually part of the point. Everybody's crust might be, your pizza needs to be delicious to you. It needs to work for your particular body. But the crust to me is digestion and hydration. We all have to work on that. Every single patient I've ever seen and ever will see, we will be optimizing that on the regular. And then the second part, the sauce, is better nutrition. It's the pillars, those 4 pillars. And then the cheese are the 4 pillars of lifestyle. So things like movement. Notice I did not say exercise. Movement, stress, sleep, and joy. And I don't think joy gets included in enough stuff on that part. And then there's the toppings. And if I had to, if I knew everything that has like a publicist and all the marketing and all the conversations, everyone is just focused on the toppings today. Like we want to know, Ashley, do I need NAD? Hey, from a fertility standpoint, should I be doing red light therapy? Should I be all of these different things? And I'm like, hey, how's your pizza? Because if your pizza isn't a good, I imagine most of us have had a pizza where maybe the crust wasn't good, but the cheese was good. And you're like, well, it's not a great pizza. But we've definitely all had a not great pizza where just maybe the topping was we bought it for the topping. We're like, oh, I want that because I wanted
right.
right?
Oh, this has caramelized onion and brie. That sounds so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then the rest of the pizza wasn't good. So the toppings conversation is here. I understand. I am the exact same way. We can get really excited about a topping, and I would include a GLP-1 agonist in a topping. The mistake that we are making in society today is thinking that a medication, a GLP-1 agonist, that is a peptide hormone, a synthetic version of a peptide hormone found in a Gila monster, that is actually the solution to weight health. It is just a tool. It's just a topic. We may use it for lifelong. We may use it for a period of time. We may find a supplement that helps the body optimize its own. There's no nature's Ozempic. So there's no supplement that does what the medication does. But we can use any of these. But if you don't fix your pizza, if you don't make your pizza delicious to your body, you're not going to have weight health on that part. And so that to me was what I feel like is missing from the conversation. And it's definitely missing from the conversation when we think about, fertility and what the body needs to be able to not just create, but also support the growth of another body inside of us.
We're going to take a break from this episode to hear about one of our sponsors. You've probably heard me say this before, but preparing your body for pregnancy is not just about you. It's about both of you. Fertility is truly a team effort, and that's why I love the Fullwell Fertility Trio for Two. Fullwell was founded by a fellow registered dietitian and fertility expert, Ayla Barmer, and this bundle was designed to support both partners in the months leading up to conception. It combines their top-rated prenatal vitamin, omega-3 fish oil, and a fertility booster supplement that covers things like CoQ10, N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic acid, and organic ashwagandha root extract. The nutrients here support overall egg quality, sperm health, fertility, and even your stress resilience. If your partner's semen analysis looks normal, or if it's suboptimal and we need to improve things, nutrition plays a key role for things like sperm motility, count, and DNA quality. For women, these same nutrients help with ovulation, egg development, and healthy hormone balance, not to mention mitochondrial support, which is a huge piece of how your gametes mature and get ready to be that queen egg or that king sperm that make it to combining to form an embryo. These things are foundational for a strong, healthy pregnancy. I personally love that Fullwell's formulas are third-party tested, they're evidence-based, and made with doses that actually match what the research shows we need. No fluff, no underdosing. So if you're planning to start trying this winter or sometime in 2026, or you've been trying to conceive for a while, it's time to think about starting to nourish your bodies for what's ahead, or take a step up from your current protocol to one that is high quality. Head to fullwellfertility.com and use the code FFF20 for 20% off your order. That's FFF20 at checkout. I'll drop the link in the show notes for this specific fertility trio bundle and for Fullwell, along with this code FFF20. Give yourself and your future family the best foundation with Fullwell's Fertility Trio for Two.
I'm interrupting this episode for another of our sponsors. This one is so exciting. They actually approached us and asked if we wanted to do a partnership, which was a resounding yes from me because I have been a huge fan of their products for years now, and that is Cozy Earth. If you haven't heard of Cozy Earth, they make the softest, most luxurious, most comfortable bedding and linens and towels and just all the things that you would want in your home. So if you are looking to have a fresh start this new year, if you want to have a refresh in your bedroom, in your pajamas, in your loungewear, in your bath towels, your bedding, anything like that, Cozy Earth is the place to go. You have heard us harp on sleep quality on this podcast 100 times. If your bed is soft and cool and smooth, how much better of a night of sleep do you have? And that is really what Cozy Earth is offering. They have a risk-free purchase option where you can try them out for 100 nights. And if you don't absolutely love them, you can return them hassle-free. But let me guarantee you, you will love them because these are seriously fantastic linens. There's also a 10-year warranty. So if they are not living up to your expectations within those 10 years, Cozy Earth is there to help resolve the issue with you. So go on over to CozyEarth.com and use our code FFF20 for up to 20% off. And if you get the post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the Food Freedom Fertility Podcast. Bye.
So talk to me about the chicken and the egg. To a patient who's like, I've tried to work on the pizza. The crust is hard for me. The sauce is hard for me. The cheese is hard for me. Do you need to work on those things before you introduce the topping? Or could you utilize the help of a GLP-1 to quiet the food noise to help you make some of these other decisions? Because
I love that you asked that.
I think a lot of people are approaching it as, let's use this tool to help get this other portion more solid, like help the integrity of it. And yet a lot of people don't feel great on the GLP-1s. And so they take advantage of the lack of food noise, but they aren't then translating it to the crust, the sauce, the cheese.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. I don't think any of us teach a kid how to ride a bike by putting them on the bike and just pushing them forward. Like we have training wheels. And I think that there's a myth of a non-compliant patient that is really established by the medical system and by doctors of, I told you to do this, you didn't do it. Or even you tried doing it, but if it didn't work, you didn't do it right. Like that space, right? And so I don't even think it's the food noise. I think the food noise is a component of it. But when you are someone who is broken down by the diet industry, and I'll put diet in that space because in that weight space of things,
And your
when you're
metabolism.
yeah,
Your
when you're
metabolism has
all of
really
it.
shifted down. And so then you're like,
Yes.
okay, I'm going to try this new
Yeah,
thing.
like this guy who's been eating 1,200 calories as
Yeah.
a grown man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is his metabolism? It's been
Right.
so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, he had no metabolism. He had done the rice diet. He had done 30 days, no eating. I mean, he had tried so the thing that I want to communicate, there is no one out there in this space who is not trying. And I will call out I am here, and like you can just send this to anyone that needs to hear it. But if your doctor or if someone in your world thinks that you are cheating or thinks that this is something that like you could just do X, Y, or Z, to your point, Caitlin, you could just do any of these things. Are you kidding me? Like I have tried. I was saying, I was using this word yesterday and somebody was like, I think you have to define it. But I was like, I have like free based fiber. Like I've had so many fiber crackers before a meal to like try to learn to feel full. My body didn't
Oh,
feel
that's a crack
full.
cocaine reference,
Right? Yes,
everyone.
that's
Right
right.
there. You can
Exactly.
link to that.
That's right. Exactly. I'm like, I literally think we have moved from like cocaine to like magnesium. Like I have people that are on so much magnesium just trying to poop. And I'm like, well, it's a little bit more like, there are other factors, that we have to, but like I've tried, having like half my body weight in water. I've tried like all of these different things. And you're like, okay, this wasn't working for me. And by the way, like, yes, I learned this and I was able, somewhere around by about age 30 to optimize and maintain, but 45 came. And are you kidding? Like my hormones and, just a little bit of life madness, probably also induced by my hormones, like all came together in this like massive explosion that was just like, and for the first time in a long time, I had a belly again. And so, now I had new tools, right? I could intermittent fast. And so I got down to where I was like maybe only eating like in a 4-hour window in the day. I'm like, and I'm not embarrassed to admit this, like when you are trying to I don't care that I am literally one of the best dietitians in the world. Like when you are trying to help yourself and you have like, I have a toolkit. I tried all of these different things. Like I'm still human and I still am that 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 15-year-old girl, 18-year-old girl that everybody told was a failure. And so, you come over on this part. So I get a little like wrapped up when you say like, yes, of course, using a medication or using any tool as an enabler of helping you to be able to do something is so important. The issue that we have is twofold. Number one, if anyone needs a window into the amount of weight bias that exists in this country, is we don't ask these questions about any other medication. Nobody asks this about a statin. Nobody asks this about a proton pump inhibitor. Nobody asks this about an SSRI. Like nobody says like, what if you have to stay on it? Or don't you really think you could just muscle through your depression? Like, I mean, it's ridiculous in this space, right? So when we think about that, we have to come over here and say, why are we asking those questions about this medication? Then there is a second part. If the medication helps you at all, you have proven my point. If it does anything helpful for you, you have shown that you had suboptimally functioning weight health hormones because it is a hormone replacement. So if your thyroid was low and you took thyroid hormone and now you feel better, you've proven the point. Your thyroid was low and we need a thyroid hormone in
That
that
is
person.
such a good way to look at
It's
this.
just so simple. But the issue is we have to remember it's biosimilar. It's not bioidentical. So instead of delaying your gastric emptying for 2 to 5 minutes, it's delaying it for potentially an entire week, 24 hours. Instead of telling insulin to go to work to pick up carbohydrates, sugar in the bloodstream and to go do its work and drop it off in the cells, in 2 to 5 minutes. It's doing that 24 hours for 7 days. That means that you're not telling your body to stop. It means you're not telling your body to be in recovery mode. It means you're not telling your body to do the yin things that need to happen so while you're sleeping, your body is getting metabolically active messages. That's a problem. And especially if you had underlying issues with not sleeping that well, with being in a stressed out state, with heart rate variability, like not being, not relaxing, et cetera, or if you have underlying digestive issues, they're going to be exacerbated. So if you go on this medication, even at a low dose, but especially as you increase your dose, you do that together, right? So if I am going to, in the ideal world, I would see you before you were going on the medication, or you would hear this and you're like, okay, I'm going to do at least a 30-day tune-up before I start the medication. I will say this, it takes about 6 weeks for the medication. So usually like I'm totally comfortable working on these two in tandem, getting somebody started and also on that part. But then we have to decode any signals that the body is sending. And then we work on that and we keep working on it while you're on the medication. And then we may hit a place where you are at a place where weight composition or blood sugar wise or whatever the reasons are, and you're thinking, okay, maybe I don't need to be on as much of this, or I'm not going to stay on it. Or maybe from an affordability standpoint, you're like, I don't know if I can stay on this. So then we can go through a process of weaning, but that process has to be, this is really important, that process has to be a checking process to see. You have to restart your own hormones because remember, they've been suppressed, they've been turned off. I wouldn't say fully turned off, but they've been suppressed. We restart your own hormones and we see, are you, number one, able to commit to the choices and continue to make the choices that are helping you? And then on the second side of it is, how is your body responding? And that's going to tell me whether or not you stay on this, whether you stay on it at the same dose, whether you stay on it long term. Because at the end of the day, if you just go on or off a like all these people are acting like surprised or super judgy because it's a weight medication. They're like, oh my God, if you go on, like my patients that go on this, then they go off of it and they regain all of their weight. And they regain it as fat because they've lost muscle. And by the way, it's that they've done this, and I was like, thanks, doctor. You just showed me how ineffective you are and you should not be prescribing the medication. Because as a dietitian, I am never going to let that happen to a patient. If a patient started to gain 5 pounds of muscle, started to regain and gain 5 pounds of fat, and we saw that over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, or said to me, you know what, I'm realizing like, I know I was really good before about pit stopping regularly for food or water. And now I'm not, like, I'm noticing the food noise is coming back, et cetera. Then I'd be like, all right, let's stop. Like, let's figure this out. So anyone that's like, again, blaming the patient or blaming the medication for it working exactly how it's supposed to work, which is to replace your own and circumvent your own, and then thinks you can go off of it and just expect your whole body to change how it works operationally, doesn't belong in this space. And I will say, like, at the end of this rant, the big piece for me is that I think that doctors delivering weight health is like the worst idea that we have in healthcare. Like, it is the worst. Like, I'm not suggesting dietitians should be scripting medications. I think doctors can diagnose. I think they can be the ones that are scripting. But if your patient needs access to a qualified dietitian to be able to do this, or CNS or someone who has the training to be able to do this, because doctors they're messing a lot of this up, with this idea of like more protein, more strength training, more fiber. And it's not working.
I've seen them like, well, if you stop losing weight, we're just going to take you off it. And you're like, oh my God, that's actually the worst thing you could do for this patient right now.
That's right.
If they're stalled out and you don't want them on it anymore, don't cold turkey stop them on it.
Right.
Like, what are you even thinking?
And even with pregnancy, I think that's important. I don't know if you guys have had patients, but I've had patients where they're on the medication, they get pregnant. I'm like, okay, so let's have a conversation about how we're going to do this, because there is no evidence out there, like, and this does make me nervous. There's no evidence. Like, we don't have patients and we certainly don't have a large group, but I don't have even a small group of patients who have gone through pregnancy and delivered children, and we've been able to watch them for 10 years and seeing that there's no issue for the mom or for the child on that part.
So weird, because this medication has been around for a long time.
2005.
Yet nobody is putting that data together and sharing it.
Yeah.
That scares me.
Well, I think it's interesting. My sense is with liraglutide, which was just the single day, we didn't see the amount of weight loss with it. That's why this didn't light up until semaglutide came available. So semaglutide is still like just about 10 years in that space. And my sense is that you were seeing doctors who, my guess is, because it was primarily accessible for diabetics and through their doctor, was that you weren't seeing doctors scripting this for anyone who was what they would call childbearing, like of the like, hey, my goal right now is to have a child.
Yeah.
So I think you would have like almost just caught what they would have considered these oopsies, like in that moment where like, oh, I happen to have a patient who was diabetic. She wasn't thinking she was going to get pregnant. She ended up getting pregnant. She was on the medication. And I am certain that they just stopped the medication at that point. And I think it's like, if somebody was asking me professional curiosity, I would say I probably would just stop the medication as soon as you get pregnant. There's two reasons. One, pregnancy does a number on our digestion anyway, and I would rather have digestion just working, how it is. And the second is I don't want to try to suppress your appetite during pregnancy, even though I know that appetite and food noise and stress and all this stuff can be really negatively impact, the body during that time period. I'd rather try some other tools, working with you on that part. But since we don't have that data, I do think that it's an important consideration. So what I say to my patients is, and I'm curious, for you all, but like I've had the conversation like, all right, so if you're from a fertility standpoint, if this is what you're working on right now, and I want to say fertility with the destination of reproduction right now, like I'm trying to get pregnant in this time period, let's do everything we can to help your body work better. And if that includes using a GLP-1 agonist, let's do that. But I do want you to understand that when you get pregnant, and I don't tell people they have to stop 2 years out or like any of this other stuff on that part. If you get pregnant, then we are going to pivot and not have you on the medication. And I usually am using a lower dose, but here's the upside. Medication or not, we're optimizing your weight health. That's better for you. That's also better for your child. Like that is going to impact their weight health for their life and for their future children. So there's so much advantage to it. It's just a nuance it's a new practice area, I would say, for all of us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the party line, I feel like for me is on a case by case basis, but
fair point.
The actual pharmaceutical companies say a 2-month washout between trying to conceive. But certainly, I mean, I've had a handful of patients that have consulted me after they've been on it and gotten pregnant on it. And then it's like, what are we going to do in my pregnancy to be healthy?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of nuance here. I know of some kind of functional, even NAPRO style practitioners that are using it actively while trying to conceive.
Yeah.
And I've seen benefit in reducing the dosage of ovulation stimulation medications because of the restored function of insulin in the body and that trickling down to the health of the ovary.
Function of the ovary, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But so somebody might be listening to this and going, I've heard all the hype. Here's this dietitian telling me they're a helpful tool. I shouldn't be considering it unless I'm actively working with a doctor who could prescribe and a dietitian that could help kind of be guardrails and support me. But what else should I really be considering if I'm thinking about weight health and weight loss? Of course, read this book. This is going to air about the week that it comes out. But what's a way that I could approach this and be asking the right questions so I can advocate for myself?
I love that.
And
I love
protect
that.
myself.
Yeah. So I did not ever plan. I've written 2 books. I wrote Mom Energy about 10 years ago, and I was like, I don't have the energy for anything else. Like I'm done with the book world, right? So I didn't write a book because I felt like you guys need more to read. This is a playbook. So when you get into the book, the opening part of the book is stories. And because I want people to be in a space of laughing, maybe trusting, maybe, kind of getting in. Then everybody loses weight because the next chapter is the stuff that we have to unlearn. And as we unlearn all of that stuff, like we lose the weight of that information, like why total cholesterol or total blood sugar or total weight, like why these numbers aren't helpful. RDAs are really dumb amounts. I know now we have DRIs, but like, how do we look at what optimally resourcing the body is? And then the second half of the book and the online resources, which includes access to a coach to ask questions to a human, not an AI. With those pieces, I provided that because I wanted you to have the questions. So I do things in there like like bite into an apple. How sweet is the apple? And if the apple isn't sweet enough, it means we need to work on resetting your sweet taste buds. I have you do the hose versus sponge test. Like if you're drinking water and peeing right away, like that's going to tell me you're not absorbing water. And that means, and it doesn't just mean now go take an electrolyte. It's not prescriptive like that. It means now I want you to work on your hydration. And here's how we do that, right? So, and then there's the whole assessment of weight health hormones. It asks you questions about your lived experience. It asks you questions about your digestion, your hydration. It does ask about some labs and asks about some other stuff. It is a clinical tool. So I want to acknowledge it is not something easy that you go in and you like, it's not like one of those quizzes and you find out I'm a lion, like, and lions roar, like it's like, we actually have to pull the data together. So I like you having someone you can work on with that, or, you can work on my team with it. But I think the advocating question is, and I share stories in the book of people, like I had a woman at 42 come to me, she has 3 young kids, and she's like, I'm a hot mess. Like I'm gaining belly weight and I have no libido, but I also have horrible back pain. I'm taking, aspirin every day. And she had like all of these lists of like all the things that were going wrong. And then I actually asked her, because I saw a medication on there, and I said, well, what about your skin? Like, why are you taking, medication for acne? And she said, oh, I didn't even think I could put that on the list. I had so many other things, And I said, oh, that's like actually one of the biggest ones. It's like giving me the information. And she said to me, I'm not comfortable taking one of those weight loss medications. And I said, all right, I just want to reframe what that weight loss medication is, just so we're on the same page. And she said, honestly, I cannot afford it now. And even if my insurance covered it for a little, I can't do something that I then would have to be dependent on and the finances. And I said, look, let's do this. Let's try a plan for weight health optimization, rooted in optimizing your weight health hormones without the shot. We did that. She's done absolutely beautifully. She said to me the other day, I'm so glad that I did this and did this now. And it's, it's been about a year and like all this, and it's so doable for me and it's everything great. And I said, great. I just want to be clear. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the rest of perimenopause and menopause is going to look like for you. And if this like all falls apart again, like I just want to remind you that the medication is a biosimilar, and we had that conversation. So what I want anyone to take away and like kind of ask yourself the question first. The most important thing is that you do have a budget conversation, at least have a budget conversation with yourself. If you think that the budget conversation is just about, can I afford this medication, especially if my insurance is not going to cover it? And by the way, cover it for at least a year. Like I'm not talking about, oh, I got 3 months coverage. If a lot of people are saying to me like, okay, well, the medication costs about $400 a month and 400 times 12 months is, $4,800. So, okay, I will spend $5,000. I said, that's not the money. Because you need, like, I might cost $250 a month. You might need me once a month for 3 months. You might then need me once a quarter. You might, whatever it is on that part, I want you to budget that part in. And there might be some other things like some supplements or some, fitness or like there might be some other things as part of this that we need to, budget in for. So having an honest budget conversation is something I think is so important to put you in an empowered position, because what you don't want to do is come in and decide to go on the medication and then be like, I don't know, like we got kicked off my insurance, or my insurance isn't covering it. And
my job changed,
my job, like all this stuff
changed.
that's happening. Yeah. And it's happening in real time all the time right now. So I think that part is going to be important. And by the way, we can adjust for those things when it does happen. Like I had somebody who we then took what was supposed to be a monthly dose and we made it a 3-month dose. And we just, worked on how we can do that. So I think that's number one. I think that should empower you a lot. The second one is ask yourself and evaluate your practitioner in the conversation about weight bias. So do you personally feel, and I have a lot of clients who are on this medication that still feel this way. They're private about it. They feel embarrassed about it. They feel like they're cheating or taking an easy way out, or they feel like other people, including their practitioners, think that this is like they're weaker when they need it. And I had somebody who,
you're just a fat slob who can't do anything.
That's
so
right.
Put you on this drug that it's essentially like putting a muzzle on a dog that won't stop chewing the furniture.
Thank you. And that's a kind way compared to, the way, like, I think a lot of people, and so it's like, that's a big one, for us to unpack. And I think in there, I encountered this with another patient story that I share in the book about someone who came to me because she and her doctor were like, you're ready to come off the medication. So can you help her come off the medication? I was like, oh, not like, I love getting patients at any point in time, but I was like, yes, I can. And my help is going to be like, oh, you are not ready to come off the medication. Because when we did her weight health hormone assessment, she had lost so much muscle. She'd lost bone. She was not eating during the day. She had made her food choices were worse than before, in terms of that. So
I
her
see this
nutrient
all the time.
all the time. Yes. Suboptimal nutrients, like all of that stuff. So we went through a period of working on that stuff for about 3 months. Then we started the weaning process. Well, what had spurred her initial 60-pound weight gain was a divorce. And the divorce ended up rearing its head again with a custody battle. And it like popped up out of nowhere. She ghosted me. She was gone. I didn't hear from her. But I had a relationship with her therapist. And in the beginning, the therapist and I had asked her to sign something that said, in the event that you decide to break up with either of us or both of us, we would like do you agree that we can reach out to you to have a conversation about this so that we can just make sure that you get care elsewhere? And so we have something that we have them sign. So she stayed with the therapist, and the therapist reminded her of that. And we came back together. And I said, you gained 8 pounds. Like you were 64 pounds heavier and you've gained 8 pounds. She's like, I just feel like such a failure. And I said, well, why don't we you're not a failure. You're going through a horrible life situation. You're trying to do all of this at the same time you're doing that. Finances were, a huge issue.
Now she's paying for a lawyer and her own house.
And I said, why don't we just put you back on the medication? I think you can use the medication even at a lower dose because of all the work that we did. You know what she said to me? She said, because I feel like a failure, because I finally had gotten off of it. And then she didn't want to go back on the medication. So we had a conversation and I said, your failures, there are things in life where you might be failures or successes or whatever. Right now, I'm telling you, we know what works and what helps your body run better. So that is like saying, like the failure to me would be to be like, let me go try to like find something else. And when we know what works and we also know exactly how it works in your body. She was like, good point, whatever. Go back on the medication at a lower dose. Kept her on it. Then we started the weaning process and now she's been off the medication, but we do something very important. We keep a vial of the medication in her refrigerator. And she says every time that she opens up the refrigerator, she reminds herself that her being on or off of medication is not the failure or success. The number on the scale isn't the failure or the success, that she's actually in charge of her own health and her own, her weight health and her weight health journey. And that to me, that's like something that like we have had, like as women in particular, I think men are starting to deal with it very fast and very intensely, but we have been dealing with it since the 60s. And this is something that like we are so disempowered in this space. And so the fact that I can help someone in this place, kind of have that. So I love that you asked the question, Caitlin, because I think the questions that are really important are to use this as an opportunity to meet yourself and be, and turn around and be like, I mean, for so much of my life, I tried to be like tall, blonde, skinny Angela Bauer. And I was like, at some point I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I actually like
Google
Ashley Koff. Oh, from Who's the Boss? She was the TV show. Okay. So I'm in my 50s. So none of you like Tony Danza, was at home,
sure.
all of this stuff, right? The TV show. So I was like, okay, I want to be Judith Light, right? And then I turned around and I'm like, but wait, and this is where I get like a little extra woo on all of this. We are all here for a very specific purpose. We are here in this moment in time. We are here to do certain things. We all need each other to fulfill our life purposes. Like there is a plan for us and we need to tap into that. I almost did not identify my life purpose because of this weight obsession, right? Because of all this dieting. I was like off in this like other world of like creating ads and selling stuff and, et cetera. And I think that I think what we all know is when you are challenged in your weight health, any aspect of it, blood sugar, pain, autoimmune disease, like any of these things, you are taken, and fertility for sure, you're taken away from fulfilling your life purpose. So the reason that I'm doing this, the reason that we have this, the reason we have to ask these questions and start to treat ourselves better and really treat ourselves with an understanding of our physiology is because when you have weight health, it's not like you get to keep it and walk away and like, that's only a project we work on, every 5 years. it's ongoing work, but when we have it, we can then go do what we're supposed to do. And I think that, as parents, as aspiring parents, as as practitioners, as like whatever your personal goal is in that space, like it's so important that we help you find what it is you're supposed to do. And I think that to me is really the gift of, this weight health conversation.
Hey, it's me again, Sophia Pavia, registered dietitian nutritionist specializing in women's health, fertility, and optimal progesterone production. And I'm interrupting an episode of my own podcast to tell you about my online course called Ovulation Unlocked. So if you've been listening to our podcast episodes, you've probably heard a lot of things about basal body temperature, cervical mucus, cervical position, and tracking your fertility. Well, I have designed a 90-minute self-paced online course, which I titled Ovulation Unlocked, that puts all of that together and teaches you how to be the expert on your own fertility from home. This course is designed to put you in the driver's seat of your own fertility, not only so you can know what's going on with your body on any given day, but so that if you need medical help, you can show up to the appointment informed and ready to communicate. Too frequently, us women show up to our doctor's appointments and just say something like, "I want to have a baby." And the doctor looks at you and says, "Good for you. Stop using birth control, start taking a prenatal, come back in a year if you're not pregnant." And that's all we get. However, Ovulation Unlocked puts you in the driver's seat, puts you in control of your fertility to where if you need help, you can show up to that appointment informed and ready to communicate your needs. So if you want to become the expert on your own body and your own fertility, head on over to my Instagram bio and tap the Ovulation Unlocked link today.
I think too, you bring up such a responsible thing that this generation maybe hasn't been well equipped to do, which is ask questions about money. I mean, the people that are trying to conceive are the same people that graduated college into a down economy in 2006, 2007,
We were
2008,
told take on
moved
all these
moved
loans
back in with
because our parents
parents.
had no money and couldn't pay for college.
Yeah, and came up in a really difficult time, and now maybe are just getting on their feet and they're struggling to conceive and they're looking down the barrel of IVF costs.
Right.
Maybe in my patient population, they're being even told they have to lose 100 pounds until they can even do IVF. But they're being posed this question of GLP-1 with all the shame and guilt that's aside, serving, that they're not doing the work themselves. Right. And, I'm not necessarily saying everybody should be on it, but if you're going to consider going on it, you should be having honest conversations about whether you can afford it or not. And it isn't yet widely covered by everyone's insurance. And there is somewhat of a predatory market around it. And I, even sitting in a fancy, the dietitian conference that I saw Ashley at, sat in a GLP-1 talk. And there was this case study, and they were talking about a patient who said they were only going to be on the GLP-1 for another month or so. And nobody in the room brought up the fact that this might be a financial decision that they were making. And
Right.
As a dietitian, as well as I do, and Sophia, that when you're treating somebody in their health and you're deep in the lifestyle side of this, we're touching so much more than what they're purchasing at the grocery store and what they're choosing to make at home or what they order out. It's like nutrition and health needs impact every other area of your health, not the least of which is feeling sexy in the bedroom and having sex to get pregnant. Like this is a much broader conversation. We could have it in the lens of so many things, but not many people are bringing up this affordability piece. And, sometimes I think the question is, what could you make a change for so that you could afford something like this, or you could afford a better prenatal? Like, oh, I'm just grabbing Nature's One off the shelf at Dillon's or Publix or Kroger because it's less expensive. It's like, well, are we trying to make the less expensive baby, or are we trying to make the healthiest baby and have the healthiest pregnancy? And I, for one, am on one of these right now. And I probably save what it costs me to be on it in not hitting a Starbucks drive-through, because I don't have that same interest in those things. And so you may find that with purchasing less wine, not wanting the cocktail out. I mean, that's the other thing is it's really made my interest in alcohol drop to almost at a zero. And so I would venture to guess, though I haven't done the math, that I'm saving the cost of what I'm spending just in different food choices and less of an interest to eat out. And, there's more considerations there, but you said
Yeah,
something.
less packaged food too. Like when you're much more deliberate, like, okay, I don't really have an appetite, yet
Nourish myself.
I need to nourish myself. You're not as tempted to buy snacks. Like this is something just in my house. I've recently put the kibosh on snacks. Like we're not doing this anymore. If you are like to my kids especially, I'm like, we have apples, we have cheese, we have nuts, we have grapes.
You have yogurt.
If you need a snack, you're truly hungry, here is some carrots and a string cheese. I'm not buying bags of puffed air anymore, fruit flavored yogurt, melt, whatever. I'm not doing it. And our grocery bill has dropped so significantly, just not getting like crackers and chips and especially because like, oh, we're on the healthier side of things, so we're going to get like the organic dried apples, and we're going to get the Greek yogurt melts and the fruit leathers made from chia. And no, I'm not buying that anymore. It's so expensive.
And at such a time like where like let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Like I mean, food costs are insane. So it's like, I mean, if you've actually dropped your cost, I'm so impressed, because I feel like that's a skill to like even just your behavior with the increase, the inflation in food prices. Like I could see where it would like net out, but like what an incredible strategy, to be able to think about in this time period. And then like to your point of like nourishing, I do want to, there's a point that Caitlin was saying that I want to double click on. I think there's also really key to this, which is, again, this is why I fundamentally believe that this lands squarely in the space of dietitians and health coaches and those that are able to collaborate and partner with someone in their life. Like this is very likely to unpack a lot of, and you don't get to control the pace of it, a lot of trauma and alterations in relationships. So if you're suddenly not the one who wants to have the glass of wine and your friends still want to have the glass of wine, there may be like there are issues there. Like I had somebody the other day who said, she's like, I've always been the skinny friend, and now all my friends are like skinny too. And I asked them the other day, like, do you guys think about me differently? And they're like, no. And she's like, but I think about you guys differently. I mean, they were like 70, like they were having this like great conversation, about it. And she was actually saying,
most people get so mad. They're like, I have worked all my life to be this size.
Yes.
And now you take this drug and you're my size.
Yes.
Reject.
Yes.
I reject it.
Exactly.
I cannot abide that. I know I'm seeing that.
And I'm seeing like husbands and wives, and I'm seeing like, and also, by the way, conversations. I was just at a talk. I think I had seen the person at Fancy, and I was just in, so like, let's say it was like about a month's difference. And she came up to me after my talk and she's like, you're just so great at this, this GLP-1 talk. She goes, you're on one, right? Like you're on one, right? And I was like kind of pausing. I'll tell you why in a second. And I was just like letting her unfold. I've learned that like, just watch where people go with the conversation. Cause by the way, it's totally always about them. Like it has nothing, but she was like, yeah, she's like, you're on one. And she goes, cause I just like, you look incredible. Like I've just seen you, like you've just lost so much weight. And I was like, I'm sure there's a way that you think that this is an appropriate conversation, but I'm curious how it's going to unfold. And then she goes,
noticed before you were just like so big and gross.
Yeah. Totally. And she's like standing up, right?
Not grossing me out as much.
Yeah. And so she's like, she's talking. And then she goes, but I gotta say, I think now you're losing weight, like too much too fast. Because you look like, and she pulls on my clothes and she goes, look at you. Like, by the way, I don't know this person well. And she's like, this dress is like too big on you. And I just looked at her. I hope your audience can handle this. And I go, so I am like, I think you heard in the talk, like, cause I had lost my voice, and I go, I have had a virus from probably the kids or from flying for I haven't been out of the bathroom or kept something inside of me for 9 days. And I said, so I'm not happy that my clothes aren't fitting. And I said, and in July, I had a hysterectomy. And I said, and before that, when I was doing an endurance climb, because I was trying to climb 29,000 feet, I ruptured my fibroid, which is how I found out. And I said, so I was like, I don't like, by the way, you don't deserve to actually know any of that. I just want to tell you your behavior right here is so inappropriate and disgusting. And I literally, and I've like never, I'm pretty good
You go,
about like,
girl.
Dang, girl.
and I just
Mic
looked at
drop.
her and I just
You
sat on
sure
there and I
from
said
this
like,
lady.
and I said, you're a healthcare practitioner. I said, before you deal with anyone, you need to deal with yourself. I was
Go to
so
therapy.
angry. Well, I was so angry and I sat there and I was like, and I'm like, this is like, how are you coming at me? Like, so if somebody wants to say to me, hey, have you, like, I'm so curious, have you, like, there's ways to ask a question, right? Or like to have an organic, discussion about it. But so I come over to this. And the reason I wanted to bring that part up, other than to just be like, isn't that insane in our profession? But the second part of it is that what she also didn't know was, you have just in about like a 4-minute conversation resurfaced so much trauma for me, because I have thought in my life for a long time of my life that instead of listening to me, or instead of thinking about me, or instead of wanting to be my friend, or like whatever it was, that somebody was just thinking about my appearance because I was teased for being fat, because I was this. And I was like, you have just re-traumatized me. So one of the other things I just want to share as part of the conversation, and one of the reasons that I want people to not have an AI for this as an option, or not have a doctor that you just go in for weigh-ins, or, whatever on that piece, but have
At
someone
minimum,
like us
if
at
even.
minimum, right? Have someone like us is these are going to be moments that things come up, right? And I think in there, like I don't know, Caitlin, like you may be encountering, but like when I stopped drinking at 48, like just because I was like, I gotta like stop like washing my floor in dirty shoes. Like I just like alcohol's like doing me no favors, And so I was sitting there and I was like, I had to start to unpack like, oh, wow, like after, like, I don't actually want to be here at this event, or I actually don't like spending any time with that person, or like it really, like it unpacked a lot of different things in my household, in my life, in my choices. So when we're thinking about what to consider in this space, is to recognize that part of the work may not be about like, oh, what's the portion size of your meal. Part of the work while on a GLP-1 may be, wow, if I've spent so much time in my food noise, I actually don't know what it's like to be fully present at a meal with my kids. And that might make me feel really guilty as a parent right now, or that might make me actually have to shift. Like I might feel uncomfortable when I'm fully present at a meal with friends or with other people. So there's a lot to this. Like I think it sometimes gets put into this.
I want to know what
bubble.
the lady said back to you when you said all that to her.
Well, unfortunately for her, there were about 3 or 4 other people behind her in line. And I just and I whispered, on that part. And she said, she apologized. She said, you know what, I'm really sorry. And I said, it's okay. I'm like, and she's like, I hope you feel better. I'm like, so do I, like that kind of thing.
And you're like,
yeah.
I hope
Good
you
along.
do better.
Just to bring up another side of this that I think maybe isn't being talked about enough is that I have a client with a PCOS diagnosis with an eating disorder background who is on a GLP-1 receptor agonist to help support needed weight loss before getting pregnant, and like has a plan and all these things. But her doctors wouldn't provide it to her. So she's going to kind of a clinic in town that this is all they do. And it's like Weight Watchers. She has to go in for a weekly weight. She has to track her food. And so she's telling them like, I can't track my food. This will trigger these past, and she's very aware of her limitations. And they have basically flat out said, you may not do this program with us unless you track your food and we have a say in your food choices. And so she told me 2 weeks into it, she just writes down what they want to hear. She's like,
I was just going to say,
I don't
like,
even, it's
done.
not even truth that I'm providing them, but it's what I have to do. And I know that I need this medication and I'm happy to have the support, but I can't do it in the way that they're asking me to do it. And I think that brings up a whole other side, which we don't have time to unpack, but you better be working with a dietitian or somebody who understands, that you still need to nourish yourself on these medications and work on the crust and the sauce and the cheese. B, that we don't want to leave you in a worse place, A, metabolically with losing too much fat or losing too much muscle and not enough adipose tissue in the weight loss that you have. But B, psychologically, you are going to be triggered. There is going to be trauma. And you need providers that can speak your language, encourage you, be compassionate, I would even say, maybe empathetic, and put themselves in your shoes in this situation and lead you without being the trigger themselves of the past trauma, right? Like, in no way is this woman better off except for access to this drug that, in my opinion, she is benefited by and needs, but feels like she has limited options and access to without being exposed to something incredibly traumatic for her and then having to lie.
Yeah. And it's their financial model. Like I see this all the time, in that space, and it's their model and their program. And, maybe that is the best option. I feel like we definitely have other options for her, so I'd rather somebody doesn't have to be in that space. But I think you also said something really, really valuable, which is, we are just at the forefront of understanding how these medications can be helpful with eating disorder and not just disordered eating, right? I think the actual clinical diagnosis of eating disorder and understanding where that came from, where that came from. Yes, it could be suboptimal nutrition or some, physiologic malfunctioning that was, contributing to it. But a lot of an eating disorder diagnosis is about an inability to feel in control in your circumstance. I mean, there's a lot, right? Like to all of that. And so I think it's been amazing work. And I've collaborated on a couple of patients. And that is not to say that if you are somebody listening and you have an eating disorder, that you should go out and get the medication and start on the medication. But again, what we're understanding is the role of the weight health hormone. Every time we see something in research or we see an outcome, we're understanding where suboptimal weight health hormone function is actually playing out. And a lot of it is in the diseases of our modern society, that's there. But the trauma piece of it, to the tune of Bessel, why am I forgetting? The Body Keeps the Score, or Gabor Mate, with his books on really understanding trauma. Your trauma is a key part of vagus nerve function, and these hormones travel on the vagus nerve. So we know that trauma is the precursor to or the result of eating disorder or disordered eating, in both instances. And so I think that we just have to understand, like, we actually have to do that work. And I think it was such a brilliant earlier question of just, would you use this for someone who feels like, I know all of the things, but I can't do all the things? And I'm like, absolutely, because maybe it's your trauma, your lived experience, where you don't feel like you were actually able to keep doing this because at a certain point, your mindset, remember, our mindset is just our beliefs. It's just a set of beliefs, but man, is our mindset strong. And so we might need to be able to create fact, and fact is going to be harder for us, but we, using the right tools, can maybe create facts, or what I call like a yes and, or better not perfect mindset of like, okay, that could be my past and this could be my present, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So let's, if you have time to do one more question before we button this up, talk to me about a little bit more about the weight health piece in preconception and how this could have generational impact, because we talk about the nourishment side of it. We talk about, so often Sophia and I are saying pregnancy isn't the goal. Family is the goal. Like we're doing the cover for my book right now, and one of the absolute, like, don't send me a proof of a pregnant belly or a uterus. I don't want to see that. I that's not the goal. The goal is family and healthy family. So we don't want you just getting pregnant. We want you at your daughter's graduation and dancing with your son at his wedding and rocking grandbabies and maybe even great grandbabies. Like, your health long-term is just as important to Sophia and I as helping you get to pregnancy.
Yeah. And helping your kids, like you want your son dancing at his wedding, you know, and you want your son, you know, I mean, you want the different pieces.
Yeah.
So I think that's like, you know, I call this like, I feel like we're at this inflection point with, and the opportunity with weight health is to create generational weight health. And I think that that's so important because when we look at, like, somebody said to me, I think this is the way that I'll answer it. Somebody said to me, do you think that like we're like everybody needs to be on one of these? And I said, you know, I think that the adult population today, there we are going to see such a high percentage of individuals that if they had access to this, so let's just pretend that we would see a very high percentage that would be benefiting from this. But the idea is they're benefiting from it means that they can role model and physiologically role model, which is what pregnancy is, right? And I should even go back to conception, physiologically role model it, man and woman, and both of them contributing to the health of the child, so that then future generations are going to be able on that part to have health, to start off with weight health, right? I think so much of what we're doing right now with the medications is a lot of course correction, you know, and being able to do it that way. So when we think about when you're talking about conception and you're thinking about how can this be helpful in that part, I think you said it. Like, the point is not like, can it be the sperm and the egg? And can you go through 9 months? And can you deliver? It's, can you, like, have you also, once delivery happens, are we able to restore a woman's body and to optimal functioning, not to like this body after
weight.
baby. Yeah. Like, not focusing on weight, like the weight, like, is your digestive health, are your weight, like all of these different things. And then part and parcel, can we help the family unit, whatever the situation. Like, my 4-year-old, at the time 4-year-old, he's now 5. So like the last 6 months, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Like, that's been a whole revolution in the household, right? Like, that's all of us having to shift how we eat, what we do, whatever. And everybody, it's kind of what Sophia said, like, everybody's healthier for it. Like, we're like, you put your foot down and we're like, we're not going to do snacks. And we put our foot down and we're like, once you've counted the amount of carbohydrates in French fries, you're just like, oh, like, I'm not against carbohydrates. I'm not against French fries. I want to be clear. But you realize, like, oh, every one of those fries that I was having, like, I definitely am not going to have 30 again for a long time, compared to like, different portion or that kind of things. And so we start to learn, like, we can shift to a weight healthier household. And I think that's really key. I want to tie it into, not just because I love her and love that we're all collaborated on this part, but I've known Ayla for a really long time. She's a dietitian. She's the founder of Fullwell, but I knew her when she was in practice, and and herself going through her pregnancies and we would have these conversations because she knew I had been, I'm about 10 years older than her, and she knew I'd been deep in the supplement world. And she'd be asking these questions about a prenatal. And she's like, why is this? I'm like, I know. And I was like, and then she's like, but why this? And like, we got to iron. Like, why does every prenatal have X amount of iron in it? And this other stuff. And I was like, why don't we and she's telling me about choline, and she's telling me all about this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, we have mistakenly thought about how to nourish a woman's body in this, like, quote unquote time period of pregnancy in such a disadvantaged way for a woman, that when you really unpack the needs of fertility, you understand that it is such a higher amount and a higher caliber of nutrient. And what I think about spending money on a better quality prenatal is also the idea of, I can't be perfect in my food choices. Like, it is not going to happen, right? I'm not going to know that, like, I'm going to get X amount of choline every day, like all this other stuff. Like, I'll drive myself crazy before I can figure that out. So knowing that I can optimize it from that combination of, I think a great concept for everybody to take away from today is your total nutrition is what optimally resources the body or not. So it's your food and your supplements together. We don't want to think about those separately. We really want to look at that piece. So I think, to me, the opportunity with weight health hormones is to understand that these hormones are so essential to our body that they absolutely have to be optimally functioning. And that for many of us today, because of everything else that we have going on in our lives and our bodies, even at optimal functioning of our own, we might need more of an assist. And that might come in the way of a supplement, or that might come in the way of a medication, to assist their function, to give us a little bit more of that force field on that part.
So good. This has been so good. Ashley, thank you.
You're so articulate. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you. You guys are fun.
Always love having. Go on.
Yeah,
we always love having writers on because it's great. It's always great, but like sometimes people in writing can do so much more than verbally, and you're mastered both, my dear. It's wonderful.
I have an incredible writing editor that helped me with the writing side of it. I feel much better in this side of it, but thank you, because I'm trying to own the writing part of myself. Yeah. Thank you.
I actually really appreciated thinking, a dietitian actually wrote this book, because I think a lot of times you see the ghostwriting being the main thing, and you're like, somebody else just went out and did research, and a dietitian didn't write this.
Oh, I wrote this. I mean, I needed an editor to be like, and that might be, too much or too, but I didn't write Mom Energy. I was with another author, and then we had a ghostwriter, and I guess she's not technically a ghost because she was listed on there, but we had a writer, and I still to this day don't resonate with my book because it doesn't feel like me, and I think that's like, nobody else was going to write my story. I'll be clear. And then it was like, you get it. Nobody's going to write my patient story. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No. Well, we end our episodes with something called a Yeah Girl. It's a celebration, something fun, something, small or major. And maybe Sophia and I will give you a taste of what these Yeah Girls, but it's basically something somebody could say, yeah, girl, that's awesome. So Soph, do you have one thought about, do you want to go first?
Yeah, my Yeah Girl, I am live on location in Boise, Idaho right now for Thanksgiving.
So fun.
So yeah, we're visiting some friends of ours up here, and also checking out, this is sort of where we want to end up, I do believe, like where we want our final, who knows? We're in our 30s, so I guess my husband's in his 40s, but like, what's your final home? Like, you can know that, but like, this is the goal of where we want to move. And so it's fun to come up here and get the lay of the land and sort of experience. Both Caitlin and I both lived here at various times. But we're pumped to be up here, and it should be really nice. Our friend's house is so nice.
I can tell.
A little too nice. Yeah. It's been a little challenging to be here with my children.
You're like, don't eat that there. Don't spill this here.
Yeah, and I'm we've been parents a bit longer than them, and so I think also we're just generally a little more relaxed, and so we're just a little more like cool with them. As long as like no one's getting hurt, breaking anything, or being mean, we're kind of like, go for it. And they're a little more like, yeah. So we're like, well, we're going to go somewhere else today. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, girl. I'm glad you're there. I hope this is really vision building for you guys. And I'm praying for your time there, Soph, that it's a blessing.
It's going to be. And it's also, I just have so much compassion for this. Cause like when I was new mom, like so much the same. And
everybody goes through their adjustments there.
Yeah. Sure. And also, in like a brand new, super fancy house where like the floors need to be considered with what kind of toy we're playing with on it. And,
That's a lot. That's a lot to be that guest. But yeah, girl, you're in Boise. Yeah. I can't wait to hear about it.
Boise. Yeah, girl. I love Boise. Yeah. Great coffee shops. Coffee shops.
So true.
Yeah. I need to check that. They had here at the house, I had a very good matcha this morning.
Oh, girl. You're a little past Eagle. There's a really fun made into a church coffee shop in Eagle.
Oh, yeah. Rembrandt.
Is that what it's called? I don't know. I lived there like almost 20 years ago now, but it opened when I lived there. Okay, my Yeah Girl is kind of like a future thing. I totally got influenced, and I'm making two very different, yet a play on the traditional dessert for Thanksgiving, because I only like savory pies. And so pies they don't do it for me. And since I'm the one doing most of the effort and I plan the menu and I purchased everything, we're right in the Caitlin court. Like, I get to choose. So I totally got influenced by this creator, and I'm using her recipes and I'm praying they work, but I'm making an apple pecan baklava pie. Can you even
That's
imagine?
a lot of things. I don't know. You have done some things with pies, Caitlin. You have done some things with pies. That pie from last year that was like a 48-hour process or whatever.
It was amazing. That one was amazing. Okay. And then the second thing we're doing is a pumpkin chai tiramisu instead of like a pumpkin pie. It's going to be like a nutmeggy,
Yum.
cinnamon, pumpkin mascarpone with whipped cream and chocolate. And I'm super stoked about that one. My husband might help me with that one because he actually makes a really good tiramisu. But I'm really excited about those, and I'm going to start the phyllo dough today, so pray for me. Never made baklava before, but girl, I'm going to give it my damnedest.
Oh my goodness. I love that. My yeah girl is that I'm going to send you my address and you're going to send those to me so that I was like, my yeah girl is I'm not making anything.
Oh,
I am
that's
so
nice.
excited.
Are you going somewhere or are you catering
yeah,
it?
so we are, no, so I'm here and I am so fortunate to live down the street by intention to live down the street from my brother and sister-in-law and my niece and nephew. So they're 5 and 7 and our dogs. And we are like for all sorts of different reasons, different family and everybody wasn't available. And my sister-in-law and her sister redid this home in the wine country here in Oregon in the Willamette Valley. And it's like so quaint and like all of that. So we're literally just getting into the car, which for somebody who's been on a different airplane for like, and in a different city for everywhere, like the fact that I don't have to travel anywhere and we're going and we're pajamas and cozy and I get to like, yeah, it's going to be so beautiful. But they literally told me like, and maybe I should be offended, but I'm not at all. But don't bring anything, don't make anything. Like this is what they love to do.
No, don't bring it.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, ooh, maybe that's not setting up. You know what?
She's gonna make it healthy.
Yeah. Do you know what they love is though they like, and this is why I think like it's so fun for me. But my sister-in-law and brother, like they're like, are you kidding? You're gonna be taking the kid, like, because I take the kids to go do stuff, and they just like they get to hang out, you know. So yeah, so they were like, don't do anything else, and I'm like, okay, you know, like that kind of thing. Meanwhile, like I'm the luckiest aunt ever to be able to take the kids, you know, to go do stuff. So it's so fun on that part.
So
yeah,
how many children will be there total?
So I think we may end up having friends that are there come by, but I think it's just the 2 kids. So it's like so fun on that part. Yeah. And it's like, and you know, again, like first type 1 diabetes, like, and the great part about this now is he has a pump and like all of that. So he can have whatever, but it's just been so cool. Like, I think we really like, there's so much that we have to be grateful for.
I'm scanning my blood sugar.
Yeah, there you go. Now. Yeah, totally. It looked like that or deodorant. So you're good. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Yeah, time to go eat. Absolutely. I love that for you during pregnancy. That's so brilliant. Good. Smart move.
Thank you.
Yeah, girl. That sounds amazing. And I didn't know you were in the PNW. I'm from Seattle and have a lot of family in Oregon. So
that's where I went to college in Seattle.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, so I'm new out here. I was in Maine. I mean, I've lived all over, but I came out about 1.5 years ago, and then life just showed me that this is where I'm meant to be right now. So it's good.
What part of Oregon are you in? If you're new,
I'm just a little bit south of Portland, so it's technically like the Portland area. But my younger brother, the one who lives here,
you say it.
Lake Oswego, Westland, Tualatin, like that area. And he runs a guide school in Montana. He's a fly fishing guide instructor.
And that's in your book all over the place.
Yes.
His contact info because I'm going to need to go be a part of that.
Yes, exactly. And we can do a whole like women's group. But when he's gone, my sister-in-law was like, wait, I'm a single mom. I'm like, I'm like Aunt Ashley's here, you know? So it's worked out so well.
Ashley, we want to do this with you. Go.
Yeah.
So seriously.
Let's do it. Let's totally do it.
Not a joke.
We're not zero jokes on me. It is totally something we can do. And I actually did his first ever women's group.
Oh my God, we could go fly fishing with Ashley Koff.
We totally, are you kidding? I could go fly fishing with you all. Are you kidding? So great. Let's do it. We'll make it a destination.
I would pack.
Yes. There you go.
Flies I would tie.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Yes, we have to.
This is my glow pop jiggly jam.
Yes, exactly.
You know what else you get to do just south of Portland is live out my life's biggest dream, which is to go to the big world, little people, big world pumpkin farm.
Oh, I heard about that. They've gone. I haven't gone. Okay, got it. I go to the coast and like hang out in like the like, you know, yes, but that's her biggest life dream. I love it.
My biggest life dream. I just love midgets and dwarfs. And this is so
Caitlin, using the M word. We're gonna get canceled.
We have that whole.
I love that
It
show.
was Gulliver's Travel, right? Like where it was the Lilliputians, and so I actually have like a total fear of like, and the kids always make fun of me of fairies, but of that, like, because it's like the older face and like the, you know, and so like all of that. So I'm a little worried now that you're saying it that I couldn't go to it.
Have to
but
delete this
yeah, okay. Also, yes,
we literally just watched Elf as a family last night.
Yeah,
and
I couldn't watch it.
There's some really inappropriate midget jokes in that, which I didn't
you're
realize.
An angry elf. You're feeling strong.
So much. That's right, so much. Like there are those things, you know, things we can do and things that we can't do. But anyway.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's end this off. I don't know exactly what day we're going to release this, but it's going to be early January because Ashley Koff's book, Your Best Shot, is going to be available on my birthday, January 6th, 2026. So you can send me a Venmo to buy a nice cup of coffee on my birthday while you're drinking your own coffee and reading her book. No, I'm kidding. But you could if you really wanted to.
And it's available now for pre-order, but it will be live. Like, so any day on that part. It also includes a fun 30-day challenge starting January 12th. So come do it and then let's go fly fishing. There we go.
That. I love
that.
Gosh.
Yes, all right. You guys know this deal, like, rate, review, all those things, share this episode. This episode, whether you're trying to conceive or not, would be helpful basically for America because you're not living under a rock at this moment. So share it with everyone, I think.
As well as Great Britain. And I would say the Aussies as well.
All right.
I did live in Liverpool. Thank you. Yes.